Oh, well, I screwed that up. I was going to play the intro, but I didn't get it together. So we're just going to wing it right now without the intro. Here, you caught me off my game.
Nothing
Hey,
wrong with that.
hey, welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse. And as you can tell, we are live tonight. And tonight I've got a panel with me, and we're going to discuss our favorite albums from the year 2022. So I've got Davy Gallagher. Welcome, Davy. How are you? Nice to see you.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. And I've got Reed Little. Reed, how are you? Nice to see you.
Doing fantastic. Glad I could make it.
All right. I got Armando Venditti here today. Armando, how's your world? How's everything
Doing
going?
good. Doing
And I've
good.
got Pontus. Pontus is making an appearance. I haven't had Pontus here for a while, so it's nice to see Pontus back.
I love
How
that.
have you been? And Rich is already making comments.
Rich,
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Everything's
it's very
good.
Early in the morning.
Better early than never. So we're going to go around. We're going to go for an hour. We're going to talk about our favorite albums from 2022. I'm just going to play it by ear, and we're just going to talk about what we like. Whether you have an album on the list that might be a duplicate, doesn't matter to me. Still talk about it. All this program is to turn people on to those releases from last year. So without any further ado, let's get going. And I'm just going to go clockwise. So I'm going to go Davy, Reed, Pontus, and then Armando. Davy, I'm going to hand it over to you. What's your first record for 2022?
Thank you. Well, I'm glad we're all about turning people on this evening. I didn't know it was that kind of show. But
tune in, turn on, whatever Timothy Leary said.
Yeah, but don't drop out because then you wouldn't watch the show.
Right.
So, as I mentioned to Grant when the idea was first mooted, it's a bit difficult because I'm doing my own album series, so I'm not going to give my top picks away. But I did specify that I listened to hundreds of albums last year, new albums.
Let me ask you this, Dave, before we go on.
Yeah.
I've listened to some records last year, but how on earth did you listen to hundreds of new records last year?
By keeping an ear to the ground and trying out independent labels, stay in touch with labels like Rough Trade, Burn and Shed, who support independent artists, and you can try stuff out, for a pittance for brand new artists. And
they've got these things called records now. You don't actually have to keep your ear to the ground, or is that just still the Scottish way?
Look, it's Todd Evans.
I mean, I used the example on a video made earlier of this was when I took the chance on of an EP 2 years ago by a band called Jockstrap, and it's on Discogs now for $100. It was £4 when I bought it a couple of years ago.
Also YouTube helps out too.
So you just take the chance on new things, and
well, before Davey gets going on his list, I want to welcome Todd Evans to the show.
Thanks, y'all. Sorry I was late.
Todd Evans, he's here.
It's not half past. He's not due yet.
So he's here. So Davey, anyway, thank you. Hey, Todd, thanks for coming on. Nice to see you. Davey, carry on with your...
You promised it's half past, Grant. So I did specify to Grant, though, when he did moot it, that I will keep three aside that are would be on my list of honourables, and I'll include. So the first one is by Caitlin Rose. It's called Kazemi, which is that one right there.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
And Caitlin Rose is one of those new, used to be called alternate country acts, but is now just vaguely Americana. So along with the likes of Courtney Burnett, Brandy Carlisle, these kind of acts. And this is only a third record, and it's been about 10 years since the last one. But she's kind of where somebody like Taylor Swift would be if she didn't embrace the pop world so much, but embraced more Emmylou Harris, Linda Ronstadt, although she writes her own stuff, unlike Linda. But also with some cat power in there for a more modern kind of sensibility. But she also does kind of power pop stuff with a country twang, which is quite unusual. So you get tracks like Holden, Nobody's Sweetheart, and La Vista, which sound like Adam Schlesinger could have written them.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah, people forget he died because he died in such an early part of COVID that
Yeah.
terrible loss. But you know, so it's a country-ish record in places, but it's a power pop record in places, and it's just a vaguely Americana record in other places. And then it adds on even more disparate influences, like there's a track called Black Obsidian, which sounds like it could be by Suede. So we're doing Britpop all of a sudden.
Mhm.
So it's all over the shop, but in the best possible way. It sounds like here's an artist that's been 10 years between records, and she spent that 10 years going, I really don't just want to be the country singer. I really don't. So she's listened to British pop from the 90s. She's listened to, she's listened to some cosmic country, maybe Grant Parsons style, but she's definitely incorporated more as I said, cat power and things to give it just much more of a rocking sensibility, much more of a smart Alex sensibility where women don't need to be kind of, wearing the big Loretta Lynn ball gowns and things. They can be kind of Lucinda Williams badasses themselves. So it's a fantastic record. And it features a guest slot from Courtney Marie Andrews, who also released a great record this year as well, along very similar veins, on which she guests. So it's very much a return in the favour album. So if you like your Americana stuff, then Caitlin Rose Kazemi, which Kazemi is a term that means when a planet gets so close to a sun, it's no longer indistinguishable from the sun, so it gets kind of trapped inside. So
Nice.
how that relates to the album, I've not quite idea, but anyway. So
Very nice.
Caitlin Rose Kazemi, number 3.
My music corner, my picks were pretty metal and maybe a little obscure, but had fun talking about on my channel a couple weeks ago. Excellent. Everybody, if you haven't seen John Clauser's picks, go check his channel out. It's in the links below. My music corner. So check out his, go ahead. Feel free to check out his picks. Reed, give me, what do you got? You got something for me?
I have, by the way, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good.
I hear like a weird noise though.
Yeah, there's a clicking kind of a sound.
Should we all mute unless it's our turn then, just in case?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So 2000. That's. Don't think that's me.
That's your mic. I think that's you, Reed.
If we all muted there, it must be you, Reed. Yeah.
This is the beauty of going live, kids.
Well, if it is, I don't know what I can possibly do about it. Here, just a sec.
No, keep going. Keep going.
Keep going. You're good.
So 2022 was both a good and a kind of meh year for new music for me. And when we get to honorable mentions, we'll be getting to honorable mentions, right? I'll go through some albums that I really wanted to love more and didn't, one of which I forgot to bring as a prop. And I'm not really into obscure new music, so sorry if these are a little mainstream for people. For the last about 15 years, I've been a huge fan of Oasis and the solo careers of the Gallagher brothers. So
yes.
In 2020, so here we've got my Noel shirt. Now his new album isn't coming out until this year, but I'm already picking it for my album of the year for 2023. We'll get there in June. We'll get there in the end. That's a Noel in joke for those of you who follow his career. So I wanted to love "Come On You Know" by Liam Gallagher, and it's okay, but I have a real problem with this album that starts with and ends with Totune. All with me so far? I don't know why Liam Gallagher needs to use auto-tune on his freaking records. The man can sing. And I really wonder if it just isn't whatever guy produced it went, you know what? If you're going to cross over to pop, you have to use auto-tune. Everybody auto-tunes now. And every time I hear that noise in the background, it just makes my teeth grind. Luckily, he put out a much better album, Down by the River Thames Live. Now, this was a video, like a pay-per-view event he did a couple of years ago on a barge floating down the freaking River Thames in the middle of the night. Very strange. I I don't know what company put that on, but you know, they had the full recording rig, and honestly, I'm gonna call it pseudo live, because if they got performances that good actually floating on a barge when it's cold enough that they're all in beanies and jackets, I'd be shocked. But nonetheless, it's clearly live someplace, maybe just not live on that particular barge. But it's half Liam solo album material and half Oasis. It's all stripped back, hard rock and roll. He's got 2 guitar players that are just ripping it up. The keyboard player is great. The drummer's great. It's like no fuss, no muss, just fantastic rock and roll. It's got some things I absolutely love. Like he's got these 3 Rolling Stones approved backup singers in the background. And I kid you not, the most prominent thing you can hear in background vocals on the whole album is them going, yeah. That's it. That's the entire background vocal in the song Shockwave. Just
Short and sweet.
yeah. So it's funny. It was actually worth watching on pay-per-view. But if you didn't catch that, it is well worth picking up this CD. I think it's the best thing that's got Liam Gallagher's name on it as a solo artist. It presents his solo material in the best possible light. And frankly, they do a pretty credible cover of Oasis songs. You know, Oasis was not a band known for its virtuosity. It was about attitude and presentation. And in the live album, he has it in spades. So there you go. Liam Gallagher, Down by the River Thames.
Super choice. Well, now that we have Todd here, now that the order's gotten all screwed up, who did I say was going next? Armando?
Pontus.
Okay, we're just going to keep going around. Pontus, you're up next.
You're muted.
And you're still muted.
That's why I try to never mute myself on this thing.
Maybe he just talks very quietly, but I'm going to predict he's going with Porcupine
I don't think
Trees.
I muted him.
Wait a minute.
I'm
Yeah.
going to predict.
I'm sorry,
Wait a
Pontus. I didn't mean to
Wait a minute.
interrupt.
I forgot the mic.
There he is. That's all right.
Sorry, I forgot the mic. My first choice is this Porcupine Tree.
Nice.
And as Reed said, I had the same issue with this as you had with your Liam Gallagher album. I wanted to like it more, but I think it's okay. I saw the show. I think the album was better than the show, but there is some good stuff here. On the New Day is a great song. Harridan is great. Rat's Return. Lots of great stuff here, but I think it's not the best album. It's not, it's not the worst. I think it's right in the middle. But it's well worth having. It's well worth listening to, and it's well worth as a document to what they've been doing for the last 12 years together and apart. So Porcupine Tree of Closure Continuation, I think it's called.
There you go. Good choice. All righty. Thanks, Pontus. Armando, let's throw it over to you.
Well, okay, let's go with this one first. I have here the new, I'm going to try and hold it up, the new Queensryche album.
All right.
The Digital Noise Alliance. Their first album in quite a few years. This album, to me, is got to be one of the most solid, consistent albums that they put out, with Tyler Torrey on vocals. Pick any track on this album, and it's fantastic. In Extremis, Chapters, Sick Death, any track on this album, it delivers. It's got kick, it's got balls, basically. Tyler Torrey's vocals on this are excellent. You cannot go wrong if you invest in this, guys. I swear to God. There is they do one cover of Billy Idol's Rebel Yell, and that's at the very end. It's track 12, depending on what release you have, and it's on Century Media Music, and it's just a really solid album. The guitar playing is just out of this world. His Todd La Torre's vocal delivery on every track is just spot on, very very impactful. Just a beautiful return to form, basically. So yeah, that's my first one.
Excellent. Top notch. And the good doctor agrees with you, Armando. He thinks that's a great choice.
Armando, I know you said it was the first in quite a while. Didn't they just have one a few years ago?
With Queensrÿche, no. Todd La Torre did a solo album called "Rejoice in the Suffering."
I thought they had one like just before the pandemic.
I don't believe so. I could be wrong, but
I don't know. I don't follow Queensrÿche enough to tell you.
No.
I don't know. Well, on that point, let's throw it over to Todd Evans and see what one of his choices
Okay,
are.
what I was trying to say when I was muted, and unfortunately I interrupted Pontus. But are we doing 3 round robin? Is that right? And then an
Yeah.
honorable
You can
mention?
do 3. We're just going
Okay.
around until we go an hour, and then
Okay. Well, for my number 3, I'm going to choose Elder Innate Passage. Elder is
Wow.
a heavy band. Has been called metal, has been called stoner, has been called prog rock and prog metal.
okay.
And
The verdict in 2019.
okay, there you go.
Sorry.
And I really love this album. It kind of sounds like the vocals kind of sound like Chris Squire. They almost kind of sound like if Chris Squire like on Fish Out of Water. That's what the vocals kind of sound like. But it has something in common with Riverside in that it has very long, complex melodies. And if you like that sort of thing, which I absolutely love that sort of thing, it's the melodies are very sophisticated and they're long and they go somewhere. And only 5 songs on this album, but you never get bogged down with the length of the songs. It's just really a lot of fun and very enjoyable. So I'm going with Elder Innate Passage.
Very nice. I'll have to check that out. I haven't even.
No, I had that one.
It's all new to me, Todd.
Yeah, it's
Excellent.
they're a pretty cool band.
Yeah, I still have to
the
get that.
Riverside connection sells it definitely.
I love it.
All right.
It's
Well,
a great album.
all right, gentlemen. Well, we already did a show on this, but after all the records that I've listened to this year, I am going to have to go. I know, but the Scorpions, holy mackerel, they came back after a long lull. They are a legacy band, and you wouldn't believe that they could have put out their look. There he is. You would not believe that the Scorpions could put out a great record like this after all these years. They've picked up, like, let's say we just listened to Love Drive or Animal Magnetism, and they pick up right from there. Highly recommended. The songs are catchy. The production isn't annoying. I'm sure it's probably brick wall to some degree, but my God, if this doesn't sound like 1983, I don't know. And it's just a welcome return. And like I said, the fact that these guys, a legacy band, could still put out something like this. And if Styx would have brought out an album like that this year, like they did the last 2 albums, I would have mentioned Styx too, because those albums should get a mention too, even though it's the wrong year. But the Scorpions, oh my God, rock believer, get it. I highly recommend it.
You know, I want to say something about that really quick.
Yeah.
The Scorpion, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but
No, go
the
ahead.
Scorpions are not one of my favorite bands. I have tried and tried and tried, and they're just okay to me. But that album is great. And that title track, if we were picking best songs of the year, that title track on that album is such a fantastic song.
You know,
it really is good.
That's all I'm saying. These guys have been around since the dawn of time, but they still can bring it.
And you almost need to chill for it because Rock Believer is such a bad title for an album.
It is.
It just sounds like the most generic compilation thing because they've had a million compilations at this point.
Yeah.
But it's, such a great record. And Grant's exactly right. If this came out in exactly 1983, you've picked the perfect year for it.
It'd been the perfect segue.
Yeah, it would just be perfect in that spot. And the fact that this same lineup have produced crap for so many, well, sometimes not crap, but just unmemorable fluff, not worthy of their name.
But I'm just saying, I know we talked about this on the show, but I'm trying to remember, wasn't the last release like in 2017? Correct me if I'm wrong. Armando has all of his years down. I don't know. 2017.
I'm not up in the Scorpions.
Okay.
They've done
2017, but they took that break, and maybe sometimes these bands need a break.
I've mooted that as an idea for quite a while, that I think a lot of acts and especially singers have been helped by the pandemic and not been on the treadmill all the time. They've had time to actually work things over. So.
Yeah. Well, Byron's trying to catch up on Queensryche, and he agrees 100% with that pick. And the good doctor agrees with me. He thinks the Scorpions record's great. Thank you, good doctor. Yeah, there you go. Well, let's jump over to Davy and go to his next pick. This is great.
Okay. UK band here, on their second album, and they're young. Annoyingly so, when you start seeing bands and you think, you're not even shaving. And then you listen to them and they're producing such amazing music. You think, dirty bastards. So this is Fear Fear by Working Men's Club. Even if I gave you a perfect picture of that, you cannot see the word Fear Fear. You can vaguely make it.
No, you can't.
But it's...
I thought it was a Foo Fighters album for a minute.
Oh, Christ, no. Unless it was 1995, thanks. But yeah, it's produced by Ross Orton, who has also produced the Arctic Monkeys and The Fall. And that is the perfect producer. When you listen to this, you go, okay, I can hear Arctic Monkeys and I can hear The Fall. Because I can hear Marquis Smith's dry lyricism and I can hear the Arctic Monkeys' sense of fun and frivolity and cheekiness in the lyrics. It's synths galore, especially the opening track. I'd really worry about your subwoofers and things. If you've not got the right setup, you will blow speakers listening to that opening track on this, called 19. It's like there's massive kind of touchstones for early New Order, Depeche Mode, but with bits of Visage in Japan. But then you combine that with really up-to-date kind of techno beats and guitar stings that could be Tom Verlaine or Mark Ribot. So it's really, really dark in that early New Order, almost late Joy Division period. Certainly early Depeche Mode, but it's also really danceable at the same time. It's like the beautiful sound of the apocalypse. Heart Attack, there's a track on record, Heart Attack, and that's got these parts where it uses the lead singer's voice. It's one of these triple barreled names, like real posh Tory types. But he sings in a kind of percussive way where his voice becomes almost trance-like, and then that gets sampled and looped and repeated. It's really fascinating the way they do it. So he's going, there's a woman dressed in black, she's a killer, she's a heart attack, woman dressed in black, killer, heart attack, woman, black, heart attack, and it just kind of loops over. Never becomes boring, and it's full of these amazing, massive synth sounds that, again, if you like these bands that have name checked, but then even more up to date, bands like LCD Sound System, Hot Chip, there's parts of that in here as well to give it the more danceability factor. So it's taken those early bands of the synth revolution and the very early bands, because if I was to compare it to Human League, it would be everything before Dare. It would not be Dare. It would be everything before Dare. It would be the more daring stuff, ironically. But yeah, this is fantastic synth rock stuff. I think if the Arctic Monkeys were a synth band, that's exactly what you'd get out of them. And for the guys to pick on the guy that produced them and The Fall was just genius move. So Second album, and I hope that they go on to bigger and better things because they certainly have an exciting sound. So, yeah, Fear by Working Men's Club.
I'm getting that based on that. I'm going to go order it.
So,
Yeah,
Davey,
That's right up my alley.
so Davey, you mentioned early Human League prior to Dare. Do you hear any Heaven 17 on there?
And again, early. So we're talking before they went, all these bands before they got their one single that cracked them into the mainstream.
Mhm.
So before Heaven 17 had, Temptation, and that cracked them into the mainstream, and then they started chasing that. So all these bands, when they were still paying off the money they borrowed for their first synths, basically, very early OMD, that kind of stuff. So, but again, with a massive, massive production on it, just sounds to make it sound much more modern. That's where the LCD sound system comparison comes into.
Nice. Excellent choice. Your review I'll have to write that down because I think I might dig that too. All right. Thanks, Davey. Appreciate it. Reed Little, let's pop it over to you.
Davey, I love your reviews now. They're like wine reviews of music. It's got a danceable bon moi with overtones of OMD.
I'm usually quite drunk when I do them, so that's quite an apt comparison.
So, in 2022, ironically, a lot of 2-song albums came out, and I'm actually gonna mention 3 of them. I forgot to bring 2 of them to bring as props. The first, I am an on and off fan of Muse. They came out with a new band called Will of the People. I cannot distinguish it from any Muse album that has ever been released. I occasionally love a song by Muse, and then I'll listen to the rest of the album and go, eh. And that was my, I love You Make Me Feel Like It's Halloween. And there's another song on there it's the one right after You Make Me Feel Like It's Halloween. And the rest of the album was, eh. So then, and this one pained me, actually the next 2 pained me. Of course, King's X came out with a new album in 2022. I'm sorry it did nothing for me. King's X's music hasn't done much for me in years, but I love the solo outputs by Doug Pinnick and Ty Tabor. And Ty Tabor especially. I used to cover a bunch of Ty Tabor songs with my garage band. And he came out with an album called Shades. I wish I had it to hold up. It's ironic that after years and years, his album came out like 2 months before the new King's X album, their first album in 15 years. That's timing for you. But you know what? I liked 2 songs on Shades. And the rest of it, it was good, but it wasn't awesome. And there's so much music because of groups like this and the Contrarians. I'm being turned on to so much music that it's good, doesn't cut it anymore. I'm going to listen to that once and move on to the next thing on my list. So the one that really hurt, though, and I'm going to talk about him every video from now on until people just decide that I'm a shill, is Jorn, Jorn Lande from Norway. Pontus, are you a Jorn fan? So Jorn is typically compared to David Coverdale. If you combine Ronnie Dio, Whitesnake, and Thin Lizzy in a blender, that's the music. It's hard rock, it's classic metal. And on this album, there's a lot of Foreigner and Bryan Adams. It's way more rock than metal. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not what I want. Is it just me, or does it sound like there's a pig rooting for truffles in our video?
I think it's
I hear it.
It's Pontus. I think it's just, I'll mute him. There.
Okay. Sorry about that. So it's a good album. If you go on Amazon, I think I am the only person who gave this album a 3-star review. Because compared to his other albums, it's just not great. It's a solid hard rock album. It's very melodic, but what it's missing are the riffs. He has worked with some fantastic guitarists, and he needs a collaborator to supply the riffs. because what he's doing right now is just providing great vocals for AOR tracks. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, except that I prefer the songs that he's got. Like his last album had most of the band Primal Fear as his backing band, and it kicks butt. That one's called Life on Death Road. I would listen to that 100 times before I listened to Over the Horizon Radar. But compared to a lot of rock that's coming out, Over the Horizon Radar is a fantastic album. It's got an amazing singer. It's some of the most melodic hard rock that you'll hear. It's just not my favorite Yorn album. And by the way, Todd, quick story. When I was at Prague Power several years ago, people were like, hey, Riverside is coming on later. They're really awesome. I'd never heard of them. And I fell asleep during their performance. So I was so guilt-ridden about that. I bought all of their albums and I took them home and put them on and fell asleep. So that is just not my music, apparently.
Well, it's very kind of puts you into a trance, and if you think that's a good thing, which I do, that's one of the things I like about him.
Trancy, yeah, I agree with that.
I like that.
Have you heard the new one, Todd?
I have, yeah. I wish I could talk about it, but it came out this year, so
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, Reed, thanks. That's an excellent review. Appreciate that. Let's pop it over to Pontus. Pontus, you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. My next choice is Birth.
Birth.
I don't know if you can see it. It's a band that started out as Astra and then morphed into this band called Birth. They made this album called Born, and it's an album.
Oh, look,
it just
Davy's
sounds
got it
like
up there too.
Yeah, good. It sounds like 1972. It's like 1972, pop rock album, sort of psychedelic album, and it's beautiful. It's just it's a beautiful ride. If you like guitars and organ and spacey stuff, and with some heaviness to it, I think it's just a classic prog rock album. And it's it appears to be retro, but it feels very current as well, because it's it sounds very well. And if you check out the tracks, which is hard because it's it's very, I can't fucking see the titles, but there's about 6 tracks on here, and if you're in for modern prog sounding like the 70s, this is the one to get. And also the Astra albums that came out in the early 2000s, they're just fantastic as well. So Birth with Born, a very silly title, I think, but works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Check it out. I'm not familiar with that at all.
They are very. It has a very 70s feel to it in terms of the production and arrangements. And
yeah, I mentioned it on SOT a while back, and I think that it's too 70s for some people. It's one of those ones that they're going to find, oh no, why wouldn't I just listen to the 70s stuff that I like? But if you do want a throwback album, you will not get better than this for a 1972 prog album that came out in 2022.
I wonder if Reed's ears are burning because of the mention of that.
But I also think that.
I mean, Rand. What did I say, Reed? I mean, Rand.
Reed, yeah. Sorry, Pontus. I don't think it's just an album that is retro. I do think it has its moments with good music on it. Mm-hmm. It's not just someone ripping off the 70s. It's actually
retro doesn't mean bad though.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah, retro's not bad. It's good. All right, cool, Pontus. Excellent. Appreciate that. Armando, What do you got next?
Well, my next pick is the. Here we go again. Here is the latest release from the Cult, Under the Midnight Sun. This came out October the 7th. October was a good year for releases. Thank you, Davy.
Davy's got. I'm sorry, but Davy's got every damn CD on the planet that we mentioned.
This is their latest CD. Came out October 7th. It's their 11th album. The last release was 2016's Hidden City. I think personally, I listed it as one of my top albums, top 5. I think it's not your typical Cult album. It's to me, it's not straight rock music. There's a lot of textures going on here. The guitar is used as a backdrop, like a lot of good guitar textures. Part of the album is what you would call. First part is what you would call, I guess, the rock side. The second part is more orchestral arrangements, very moody ambiance kind of setting. Some people would say depressing, but to me, this is a mature album. The lead off single, "Give Me Mercy," is a brilliant track. There's other cuts on here. "Mirrors" is one. "A Cut Inside" is another. The title track itself is, to me, it's a beautiful piece of music. There's a symphonic arrangement that goes along with it, and to me, it's an album that the Cult really wanted to make. I think at this point in time in their career. So, if anyone out there is interested, it's out there. You can get it. It's a short album. It's like 35 minutes. There's only 8 tracks on it. It's 35 minutes, 8 songs. You won't be disappointed. If you want something a little different from the Cult, you're not going to get Love Removal Machine. You're not going to get, Street South Sanctuary. You're not going to get that. But you're going to get, for me, it was a pleasant surprise. So that's my pick.
Excellent. Cool. Wonderful. Todd Evans, let's pop it over to you.
Well, I am going to go with what I chose as my number 2 on my top 10 list for this year. And I am also going to talk about Porcupine Tree Closer Continuation. I'm going to say that, it's too early to say, but I think that this album is a contender for my favorite album. I'm not going to say it's my favorite Porcupine Tree album, but I think it's a contender for a couple of reasons. Steven Wilson's bass playing is super cool. It's really bold and in your face and loud and daring, and I really like that. I like what that added to their sound. I think that they're I have to go to the inner sleeve because of the way that they list the song titles on the back. It's not very helpful.
I know.
But Pontus already mentioned Of the New Day, which I absolutely love. But I also really love Dignity, and I think that that's one of their most beautiful songs, if not their most beautiful song. And a lot of people over the past 5 or 6 years have been complaining about how Steven Wilson uses his falsetto too much. And in that song, he uses it just very briefly, and it's very effective the way that he does it. I think that the arrangements are really unique, and sometimes with modern prog rock, sometimes things go in crazy directions and they lose their center, and you think, oh, I don't even know what they're doing. But the directions that they veer off into on the Porcupine Tree album, I think, work, and they surprise you. And so I think it's a very good album. I'm not ready to say that it's my favorite, but it's a contender. I think it's as good as some of their other albums.
Cool. Excellent.
I've started to get into Absentia slowly.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I envy you.
I also
And that
think
says, Todd, that's a pretty
slowly.
big statement. I try best to love it, but I frankly couldn't do it. Dignity is very good, the best song on the album.
Yeah,
I
I just
also
think
think that it is. I also think that it is Gavin Harrison's album.
well, Gavin Harrison can do no wrong no matter what project he's on.
Yeah.
No,
That's
but
how I
he
feel
plays
too.
very it's very clearly that it comes from his drums. It's very sort of the album when he's on. The album is on.
Yeah,
He's really.
I
leading the
agree with
band.
that. Yeah.
What I'll say about that Porcupine Tree, though, is probably the best or worst, depending on how you look at it, example of bonus tracks that are better than the tracks on the actual standalone album.
Yeah, I could go
I
on for a
agree.
long time about my irritation with some of these labels, especially Inside Out and the games that they play with bonus tracks and continuity. And the Riverside album is the one that just came out is a perfect example. I'm not crazy about that. I would rather it just be a long album and have a sequence instead of trying to figure out, is this the real album or is this the B-side?
I get
Which
what
is
you're
the real
saying.
version?
I
I
agree.
get what you're saying. Yeah,
100%.
I agree.
Because like Jethro Tull's upcoming album, the second disc is just demos of disc 1, so that's fine. You know that these are obviously just demos.
Yeah.
But when the Porcupine Tree album dropped, I was like, But then when the deluxe edition came out, and all of a sudden we had Population 3, Never Have, Love in the Past Tense, I was like, these three tracks.
You just get to the point where you think, like, which is the proper album? Like,
well, my favorite album of all time is IQ, The Road of Bones. And I completely think of the first disc, tracks 1 through 5, as the album. And I cast away the rest of it because it doesn't match the quality. And there are other people who can't do that with that album, but I want to know what the album is. Tell me what the first track is and tell me what the last track is and what goes in the middle. I don't like ambiguity about that.
And then there was Japanese bonus tracks and things.
Right.
Just quickly, I have The Road of Bones. That is an amazing.
Oh, it's beautiful. I didn't mean to just derail the conversation.
Sweet Jesus. Sweet Jesus. It's
super powerful.
album.
Yeah.
Super. All right. Thank you, Todd. That was beautiful.
Sure.
Well, we went off on a tangent there.
That's what this is about. Tangents are welcome. It's all about talking about music, kids. So the record I'm going to choose, I don't know if anybody's going to mention it because maybe it's been forgotten after all these amount of time. I don't know. But it came out in February of 2022. After a many-year drought, I mean, the last thing we'd heard from him was in 2004, and I'm going to have to go with the Tears for Fears, which I love this record. What a pleasant return. It's like, look, Grant, you're picking all these old bands. Holy crap, can't you listen to anything new? Well, I have a problem with that, I must admit. But I must say, this is a welcome return. This particular one is the Target CD. It's got 2 bonus tracks, so that's kind of nice to have.
Yeah.
But what can I say?
Another one where there's about 5 different versions, and what are the real tracks?
Right.
Yeah. But what's weird about this record, you think they might have continued on from 2004 where, everybody, the Happy Ending album. But this is not like that record at all because that was very psychedelic, very 1960s.
Very Beatles-esque.
Very Beatles-esque. This album is not like that at all. It's almost like they've picked up from, Seeds of Love or something and continued on in that vein to some degree. Though all the Tears for Fear records are all very different. But man, what a nice gift to have in 2022 was Tears for Fears to release a record. And that's my second pick.
Yeah, I picked that as my number 6. And it's funny about that album. I was disappointed in it for a while because I really wanted to hear Roland just belt out a lead vocal, something really powerful like Woman in Change or something like that. But that album sneaks up on you. It's so classy and it's so well done. It gets in under your skin. And before you know it, you're just like, oh, wow, I was wrong about this. This is really good.
Yeah, it's got that Joe Jackson quality where it just oozes class and that kind of seeps into your skin.
Exactly. Yep.
I mentioned it back on, I think it was the Contrarians when we did the mid-year album looks. And I picked up the Blu-ray audio of it because it's got a remix by Stephen Wilson. And that's the only time that's ever been released. So you know that's going to be done again, because there's no way they're going to let a Stephen Wilson remix sit on the shelf doing nothing.
Right.
Never been released in the States. So we know we're going to get a deluxe edition of The Tipping Point as well.
Right.
So,
I don't know. But that's my pick, kids. You know, I'm kind of boring, but you know. Brian McFadden says Aha released new music in 2022.
I didn't know that, and I wish I did, because I need to check that out.
Aha's been virtually forgotten since 1982 here in the States.
And they've been working I think they've been working pretty much that whole time. I'm not sure. I may be wrong.
Well,
about
Davy,
that,
over there in the UK, I mean, aren't they still pretty?
Oh yeah, they're not reduced to. I mean, sometimes it's Martin on his own, but they're not reduced to doing what I call the Kajagoogoo bills. You know, where you need 10 different bands to be on a bill to try and sell a few tickets for a bunch of people who are only there for a good day out and to get pissed as a fart. But yeah, they're legit here, man, and they've had quite a lot. I mean, obviously you have your big hits, and then you have the sun always shines on TV. And what was their Bond theme? 11 Daylights. So you know they have quite a lot of hits.
Yeah.
For anyone out there who's interested, there is a YouTube. Listen to me. Aha movie called Aha the Movie. It's a documentary on their career and their ups and the very big downs that they had, and the fact that they can't really get along sometimes when they're recording, and it's very tumultuous in some spots. And if you are okay with subtitles, go for it.
All right,
it's on Amazon.
So something's rotten in the state of Denmark.
Yeah. I'm surprised they released a new album in 2022, but yeah.
Oh, cool. All right, Davey, since you might as well, we got 15 minutes. Let's go around one more time and then we'll call it a day.
Okay. So I did a kind of Americana album, did a very British album. So I wanted to find something that would kind of combine the two, wrap it around. And this is by Michael Heads and the Red Elastic Band, which you see there. Now, Michael has been around for 498 years. It feels like it's one of those guys who's been boiling under. He's going to be the next big thing. Oh no, not yet, but he will be. He's taking a while. He's a late bloomer. All of a sudden, he's middle-aged and he's never made it. One of those guys, but he's always made enough of a cult career that he's never had to get God forbid, a real job. So he's been in bands like Pale Fountains, Shack, who were the closest they came to kind of pop success. They did get in the top 20 a few times. The Strands. But this album, which is the second with this band, the Red Elastic Band, is called Dear Scott. And it's named after a postcard that F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote to himself, kind of commiserating about how unsuccessful he'd been with his career. So that's kind of where Michael finds himself here, kind of saying, I've never really made anything of myself. And ironically, makes his most successful album ever out of it. Goes top 10 in the UK, finally has a success. But it's not a downbeat album. It's not a woe is me, pour me the drink. Kismet is the first track, and it's got the Bo Diddley drums, but it sounds like the Laz, which is the weirdest combination you could possibly have. But yeah, it's that great early 90s British sounds of indie pop, but with the Bo Diddley drums on top, which is just such a bizarre and it doesn't quite work. That's what's cool about it. It intentionally doesn't work quite, just to keep you on your toes a little bit, as if, don't settle down and we're letting you kind of settle into this record. It's going to keep you trying. Then we go into stuff like the next track is Broken, and we'll go through the whole thing. We're not going to do one of our full episodes, but Broken Beauty goes into kind of Northern Soul things. So going to come out of the Wigan Casino in 1965. It's great stuff. So it's all over the shop in terms of influences as well. We get The Next Day, which has got these great backing vocals and kind of lilting flutes in the background and great harmonies that are in the style of the Beach Boys. But his voice is not Carl Wilson, Brian Wilson. He's got quite a rough voice. So it's a great dichotomy between the production and the arrangement and him being quite somebody who never made it outside the UK, but John Cooper Clarke, a kind of poet, more of a poet singer, or Leonard Cohen's, I guess, would be the North American example of someone. He's not got as deep a baritone as Leonard who did, but that kind of idea. He's a better singer, you know, but that kind of idea where he's never going to sing Surf's Up convincingly, put it that way. But and then he's got tracks like The Grass, which is really brooding, and he sings in a low register, which is more, you know, like those moody Mark Knopfler tracks where he wasn't playing the guitar much, and it was more like, God, I bet I got the lyrics here because I can't understand the word Mark's saying here. You know, it was you know, like one of those, but it still sounded great because it's Mark Knopfler, and that's on here too. So it's like all these kind of influences. And there's loads of jangly guitar on here, loads of West Coast sounds that are added on. But again, given that he's a proud Scouser, who's from Liverpool, and sings in his own accent in quite a lot of places. Again, you get this wonderful dichotomy between the Americana elements, where for a second it sounds like Roger McGuinn is playing it, but then a Liverpool accent comes on with the phrasing and sensibility and connotations that brings. And it gives you a wonderfully esoteric feel. Yeah, just highly recommended for, like, you know, I not even a comeback story. I never was story who finally made it in like the age of, I think about 56 or something. He'd never made it, and finally did. By making the album that says, well, I'm just going to give up because I'm never going to make it. He finally made it by doing that. And so, yeah, Michael Head and the Red Elastic Band at Dear Scott.
Excellent. Cool. Emma says, you guys, what's your opinion on King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard? They released like 10 albums this year. Anybody
Yeah,
hear that?
For everyone I hear,
one
there are 10
album a week.
that I don't. So,
Yeah.
Never heard of them.
I think they're good, but they release an album a week, so you can't get into them.
Mm.
It's hard.
some great psych rock, some wonderful psych rock from them, some epic
Yeah, I think so.
jams. But unfortunately, they are so prolific. A bit like one of my favorite artists. It was great during lockdown, but Daniel Romano, who released 12 albums in 2020, and that was great during lockdown. But you know, when you've got other things to do, it's not so great to keep up with these people. Wofa, there you go. The Singularity is a brilliant record.
Yeah.
From Dr. Frankenstein. It's a
I would love to see them
phenomenal
live.
record.
The good doctor's all over it. All right, cool. Well, let's move on. Let's go to Reed. Reed, what you got? What's your other third choice?
Okay, I'm going to do two real quick. We're running out of time, so I'm going to blast right through this.
Yeah, blast.
Not really my favorite album, but my favorite experience of the year, KMFDM Hyena. So for those who don't know, the guitar player in KMFDM, Andy Blacksugar, is a contributor to the Contrarians. It's still awesome that we have access to a guy who's an international talent and plays guitar in both Blondie and KMFDM. And when Jeff Beck died, just go to YouTube and Google Andy Blacksugar Jeff Beck tribute. It is beautiful and jaw-dropping. The man is an astounding guitarist. Wish I could say that this was my album of the year, because I'd love to, love to support him that much. But it's all right, There are a couple of songs on it I love. The guitar playing on it is brilliant. At this point in my life, industrial metal is not the music that I listen to most often. So, almost as much as Jorn Lande, I harp about this next artist, but he had to be my number one pick for 2022, and that's going to be Johnny Marr. Fever Dreams Parts 1 through 4. It's a bit of a cheat because he actually released 4 EPs of 4 songs each, 2 of which came out in 2021. but then he put it all together for this single album in 2022. It has some fabulous singles on it, like Tenement Time and, oh, sorry, I dropped my CD there. Spirit, Power, and Soul. Let's see here. Counterclock World. And what I've really learned to love about Johnny Marr, especially reading his autobiography, he says just flat out, you know what? My music is just as intense as any heavy metal. And if you watch him perform, he's got that attitude. He's like, this is guitar-driven rock, and it's just as intense as any other form of music on the planet. And he's that into it. And I love that, even though his music is electronica mixed with, you know, kind of 80s British pop.
Mhm.
So it's a fantastic album. It's a little long at 16 songs, but it's a COVID album. He recorded it when he had a lot of time on his hands and needed something to do. And if you haven't heard it, it's a great place to jump into Johnny Marr solo work with both feet.
Excellent. Cool.
And seriously, go to YouTube and look up Andy Blacksugar's tribute to Jeff Beck. It's amazing.
All right, cool. That's what this is about. Pontus, what's your number 3? Or, well, what's your third one? It doesn't matter if it's numbered, but. Uh-oh.
He's muted again.
Simon and Garfunkel, The Sounds of Silence.
Oh, Pontus, you're going to have to unmute yourself because I can't unmute you.
It's Earthless. And I practiced all day for this title. It's very weird. It's called Night Parade
Of the Thousand.
of 100 Demons.
Yeah.
That's quite a title.
So,
I'll give you that.
That's quite a title. Earthless is from US trio. It's very if you dig jam, this is what you get. This is instrumental. This is just guitar solo. If you're into guitar soloing, that is just fantastic. Here's how it looks. Quite strange. This is a sort of desert rock, I guess, but it's more jam. It's very much a jam band. It's 3 songs. It's a suite of two pieces called Night Parade of the 100 Demons, 1 and 2, and then there is Death of the Red Sun or something like that. And it's just fantastic. If you want to hear sort of Jimi Hendrix stuff, I think Isaiah Mitchell is his name. He's totally fantastic on guitar. And this album is, I think, number 6 in the studio catalog. If you want to hear them live, you can go to another album, which is just fantastic, which I just picked up, which is from 2001. This is one of those. It's one of those pandemic sessions where people went out. There was sort of a idea that if you went out in the Mojave Desert, there was a few groups who did that and did specials with that and did a sort of mini festival. And this is volume 1. Earthless Live in Mojave Desert, and it has 3 songs on it. It has The Violence of the Red Sea, Sonic Prayer, and Lost in the Cold Sun, which lasts for 39 minutes.
Wow!
Oh my God!
Holy mackerel!
No
So that's this is not a pop album by any means. This is just fantastic guitar playing and jamming throughout. And I stumbled over them through hearing them on sort of an Amazon pick or something like that. It was just, wow, this is just fantastic. So check them out, Earthless.
Cool.
They've done a few,
I think
many
they're
albums.
they're one of the quintessential bands who understand that in this day and age, if you want to sell a physical copy, get some artwork, because you don't skip past that art when you see it. You know,
No.
Yeah, that's incredible.
and then they understand that
I don't know what it's supposed to be.
they love a gatefold. We'll all fascinate over a gatefold and things. So they understand the physical media aspect. Give us something special, and if you build it, they will come.
And here they are in the Mojave Desert.
Bit too hot for me, that thing.
It's a
I
bit
mean,
warm.
39 minutes. It's just, it's just a
It's
lunch break.
crazy. Yeah, really.
I love it.
I don't know. That's quite a short one for some of the Grateful Dead shows I've heard on CD.
Yeah, some of it, but it's up there. It's up there, really.
We're going to start Dark Star. Okay, I'll be back in an hour.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Thanks, Pontus. Excellent. Let's throw it over to Armando for his next one, and
Okay. I said before we came on air that there's going to be some overlapping, and here we go. My
okay.
one is Tears for Fears. The Tipping Point came out in I think it came out February 29th of 2022. And the thing about albums that come out at the beginning of the year, near the end of the year, you tend to forget that they came out basically at the beginning of the year, right? Because other stuff comes out. For me, just to continue with what Grant was saying, this album went through a lot of changes. This started out, news of this album started coming out as far back as 2017. They had signed a deal with Warner Brothers for a new deal. Then Universal went to Warner Brothers and said, we want to buy out the contract. We want to distribute it. Then they started recording the album. Kurt Smith, at one point, because they were forced to or told to use outside writers, he basically said to Roland Orzabal, "This is not for me. I can't do this. This is not what we want to do. I'm done. You can do this on your own." They basically, if I understand correctly, and I'm sure Davy will correct me or somebody online, but I believe they got rid of their manager because he was trying to force them to go into that direction of writing with outside writers. They got rid of the manager. They kept 50% of the music that they wrote and rewrote the rest of it, just started from scratch. And this album, from the album art on front, even to the album art inside, speaks to what the album is about perfectly. I believe this, by the way, yes, there you go. One person is basically balanced. The other one is sort of teetering on the edge of sanity, insanity, whatever you want to call it, confusion, because at the time, Roland Orzabal lost his wife, Caroline. And I believe that the title track, that was what he was writing about. The others, there's two other songs that come to mind, No Small Thing and My Demons. But just a quick question. Why when you've got a beige background on a cover, why do you put white text against a beige background? You know what I mean? Where you can't really read the song titles and you can't follow what's on the back here.
That's called a poor
It's
choice.
Yeah.
It's art.
But no, it's a fantastic album. It is not where Everyone Loves a Happy Ending left off. And I think that's what they purposely wanted to do. And they executed it perfectly, So if you wanted just a good album, no themes, no song, there's no thematic premise going through it in terms of song titles and stuff. Just if you want a good album just to lose yourself in, grab this one.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's my final choice.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, Todd Evans, what you got for number 3? It's probably nothing that I've ever heard of,
No,
but I can hardly wait.
it's pretty mainstream. It's Marillion An Hour Before It's Dark.
Nice.
And you know, this album really has it has a centerpiece, the 7th track, Care, song about healthcare workers, and and a lot of other things. And but it really, they have had very moving, powerful songs, even in the recent past. On their last album, they had Why Is Nothing Ever True? Before that, they had Gaza and The Sky Above the Range. So, you know, it's not like they haven't been churning out songs that really move you, but this one is really a career topper, I think. 7-track album, all of it's good. And it really holds together well. I have a kind of a complaint about Marillion. I think that they need to be more produced, because they tend to meander off in different directions and kind of lose their focus. And once you start really digging a track, it abruptly changes and you're not really sure where you're going. And I feel like their last album was kind of like that. But this one is really, really well done. And one of the things that I wish that they would stop doing, unfortunately, is that this is a 7-track album and every song has multiple parts. Like Be Hard on Yourself is the first song, and then it's 1, the tear in the big picture, 2, Lust for Luxury, 3, You Can Learn. Well, the CD is indexed like that, so there's like 17 tracks on it, so you can't shuffle it. And their last album was like that too, and I really wish they would stop doing that. I really wish that they would just be okay with a long song being a long song that doesn't have to be separated into parts. But as musically, as far as the way the whole album holds together, they did a really astonishing job, and I didn't see that coming. I knew I would like it. I didn't know it would be that good.
Yeah, there's that one line in this. I think it's in Care. That one line where it says, "The angels in this world are not in the walls of churches."
Yeah.
When I heard that lyric being sung, I was in tears, because it stopped me from what I was doing, and it just sort of woke me up. And I just went, what?
Yeah, the heroes in this world are not in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Absolutely. The heroes in this world working while we're all sleeping. They're not rendered in bronze or stone. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Yep.
I mean, Todd knows the story, but I've done a video about it, and it's why it's not included in any of my list this year, because it's too personal. When my twin brother passed away during COVID, Steve Hogarth sent me a letter, and it was the lyrics for Care, and they're different from the ones that are there, and slightly, not much, and it said, "You're the only person apart from the band that knows these lyrics right now." So, because my brother was a healthcare worker, and
okay,
it was, how do you repay that? You know, like, it felt like, you know, buying your album isn't really going to cut it, is it? So,
right.
So yeah, I'll never forget that gesture from, you know, it's just a letter for Steve, but for me, it's just, you know. But for that reason, I can't put it in, you know, I can't compare it to just an album that I paid 20 quid for or something, you know, it's too personal, close.
What a beautiful, kind thing to do. And also to read those lyrics before they made it into the song. I mean, they read just as powerful as they sound.
Yeah.
It's really something special.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a reason people have always said Marillion are the people's band. And sometimes you hear that and you think, I wonder if that's kind of PR about certain bands, you know, like, oh, they're always, no, he didn't need to do that. You know, he didn't need to do that at all.
No.
They are the people's bands, you know, there's a reason why fans support them and fundraise everything for them, because they get everything back and then some. So yeah, bless Marillion, bless Steve Hogarth.
Yeah. My name is in quite a few special editions of their albums.
Mine too, although I'm disappointed to hear you weren't a big fan of Fear, because I love that album.
Oh, I am a big fan of Fear. I think it has some lows, but I think the highs are really high.
I need to re-listen to that one too. I've got it downstairs.
Phenomenal band, and what a gesture!
Cool.
What a gesture!
Mm-hmm.
All right, I
I
just have
really
a
love the
couple of
cover art. Of
Oh
the
yeah, me
album.
too.
yeah.
Yeah, and there was another band that ripped it off this year, just like the.
Oh really?
Yeah, they had the exact same. I mean, it's a big band as well, like Left Field or something. You know, like
Uh-huh.
they had the exact same spectrum and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, this
Just
came
like,
out in March, so yeah, they probably
just like the
did.
Scorpions album. Is it Maelstrom have got an album that looks exactly like that cover of the Scorpions, Rock Believer. It's unreal. How'd you get away with that?
We had Marillion Weekend here in Stockholm, and I met up with those people, and everybody had that T-shirt.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they did the Ukraine version, which I picked up, the yellow and blue version for Ukraine, which is quite special as well. So,
Yeah.
bless them.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, Mr. Evans. I'm just going to go talk about two things real quick to wrap this dog up. But DC's probably on with me on this, but the new Fuzz Bubble album is out, and it is a power pop masterpiece.
Yeah,
They haven't
bless
they
Jim
have-
Backey as well.
Yeah.
They haven't put anything out since 2000. So it's a welcome return. Even that album in 2000 is great.
Mhm.
The Shun Puffy Combs back record.
Yeah, we were going to do
Well,
a review of that, wouldn't we? You and I.
I don't know. I think we talked about it.
Yeah,
Did
you
I write it
messaged me about
down?
it. You messaged me about it, so yeah.
Well, if I probably did. I can't keep track.
Yeah, maybe when you had that COVID period and everything got bumped because it was about then the album came out, wasn't it?
Mhm. Well, anyway, DC, I'm sure you're down with this. Of course, everybody else has a great record.
Yeah.
Jim Backey, brilliant guitar player, engineer, writer. Holy crap, the guy is
You mixed the album, I believe.
Lovely
yeah,
fella as well. Yeah, you kind of hate that all-round talent and an H guy to boot.
And since I'm plugging it, check my Fuzz Bubble interview in the archives. The other thing I want to mention is no one else mentioned it, but the Smile. I just got this the other day, which is the Radiohead offshoot. And I listened to this once. I'm not saying this is the greatest record of the year, but it's a welcome return if you're into Radiohead because it's a little bit more accessible. It's not quite as out there as some of it, but I don't know. Davey probably could elaborate more on it.
Well, I did because I turned you on to
Yeah, Davey had turned me on to it.
I did. It's on my list, my 50 albums that I'm doing, and it's the most easily accessed Radiohead project. It's not just Radiohead, but it is
Right.
Tom York, John Greenwood, and it's produced by Nigel Godrich. So for goodness sake, it's pretty much Radiohead. Okay, so we're talking about most of Radiohead. But it's accessible as anything they've done since Hail to the Thief, and parts of it since OK Computer, but it's still got some of the intricacies of and rainbows and some of the beauty of that album.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got none of the nonsense from King of Limbs and the last few records that even Radiohead fans are can't even understand what Tom's saying anymore. Has he invented some new language? No, this sounds like, and Grant, you can vouch for this, even if the tracks aren't instantly, because it does take a couple of listens.
Yeah.
How good does Tom York sound?
He sounds as great as he ever has.
Sounds like it was 1994, and he's
1994. You thought he just got done recording OK Computer.
Pablo Honey, the Bends. He sounds exactly the same. Unreal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. The only other thing I want to mention is that this is a new old record, but thank God it finally got a release this year. Of course, they only pressed 2,000 of them, but it's Cheap Trick live from the Whiskey A Go-Go 1977. It's got all 4 sets when they played the Whiskey in 1977. This is one of those rumored shows. It's got a record store day release on a 2-record set, but it was condensed. This is the whole thing. Highly recommended. Whether or not there are any left, I don't know. But it's a new old release. And, since I'm talking about all these old bands for crying out loud, it just fits with what I'm talking about. Anyway, there you go, kids. We're going to wrap this one up. We went an hour and 15 minutes. Those are our 2022 records. I want to thank the panel tonight. Davy, Reed, Pontus, Armando, and Todd, thanks for joining me for this. We had to reschedule this once, but it came together tonight. And I'll tell you, I hope that we have turned on some people to these records because
Right, so.
that's what this channel's about, kids.
Well, it's already sold 2 copies of Working Men's Club Fear. So
Mm.
There you
I'm
go.
gonna check
Wait
that
till
out.
they hear it and there's no sense on it at all. That would be the best laugh. What's that?
Grampy, what is this? Grampy
Dr.
Grant.
Frankenstein
Come
likes
on,
the-
Brian.
Somebody
come on.
mentioned Cats in Space in the
It's the new
comments,
pic- the new
Someone
pics.
did mention Cats in Space.
yeah.
and
Somebody
here
else-
we are.
Somebody else did a
Cats in
video on
Space.
Cats in Space the other day, so I didn't need to. Oh, it's me. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know,
Preamble, Cats in Space.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
I hear that
Gentlemen?
Fuzzbubble were just trying to sound like Fuzzbubble.
they do sound like
there's nothing wrong with that.
Ridiculous. They shouldn't be ripping themselves off like that.
Right.
Sorry, inside joke there.
music's good show. DC, great discussion, great show. Look at that. We nailed it, boys. Anyway, I want to thank everybody here that came on. I want to thank everybody who watched tonight and left a comment, for crying out loud.
Did you get any pics from Tyler? You were going to mention if you did, but if you
Oh,
did,
let me look.
He did say he did. He may have been lying, but he said
Well,
it.
if not, I'm going to say his
wait a
number
minute.
one was Harry Styles. Harry's house, so you better they are.
Mary
I literally didn't
Halverson?
understand a word of that.
What?
Mary Halverson, Amarellis, and Belladonna. I don't know what that is. The Jazztronauts out in the night. You know that? And then he likes Jeff Beck, Johnny Depp record.
Mhm.
That's his picks. I don't know
Wow,
what.
that's
Mary
contrarian.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be all metal, but it's not.
Well, he's done his own top 10, which is a bit more.
Metal?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. All right. There you go. There's Tyler's picks. Again, thanks for everybody for showing up. Everybody in the leaving comments. We'll see you on the next one. Good night, gentlemen.
All right.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
Night, night. Take care.
See you bye.
If I end it, I'm ending it.